I want to touch on lots of things that Jazz has said, and the kind of accidental saviors thing. I want us to become intentional heroes now. So I want us to think about what can we actually do to move past this. And what we're used to, especially in England, and especially before, obviously, Jazz and I go to schools, CPD looks a little bit like this.
Ready? You ready, going? Ready, go!
This is us delivering the CPD. That's the person who organised the CPD. You will go through the whole CPD. This is the pile of work that's coming at the end of the CPD. Wait, you will listen to it. Keep going, come on. Get to there. There we go. There we go. Good. I hope you enjoyed your day. Good. Now the problem with that is, for that little girl, bless her heart, that's her only experience of a slide. So the next time she ever is asked by her mum or dad, do you want to go on a slide? Her response will be, probably not, no. All right, I'm okay. I don't really want to do that. And that's unfortunately how most CPD has come across to us. You know, we've had it so many times and so many years in so many different settings, so many different environments. We're kind of like, nah, let's just leave it, you know. Should I just be sent the PowerPoint, because all you're going to do is stand there and read it to me anyway. So, you know, what exactly do I have to do? So the point is, we need to think about this word, inspired, inspiring, inspirational. Jazz hears it a lot, and both of us, whenever we get given those comments, we think, what does that even mean? You know, what do you want to get from being inspired? Because we see it as a verb, you know. What are you going to do after being inspired? What are you going to receive from being inspired, and what are your next practical actions after being inspired? Because leaving here feeling good and happy and uplifted is nice, but so is going to the cinema and watching a film. And so is listening to an album on the drive home, and so is eating some nice food. It's nice, it's good, it's pleasant, and then we forget, and then we move on. So I guess what I want to tap into is all of the things that Jazz has said. How do we put those things in place for our students? Because there's a fine line between us being sold as a miracle worker and us being sold as a profession, as a vocation, as a job, or is it just what I do day in, day out? And the fine line is, how do I make that actually achievable and accessible and actually measurable for somebody to think, I'm actually pretty good, I'm okay at what I do. And that person that needs to validate you is yourself. So you need to think, is what you're doing day in, day out at school effective? I don't want anybody to leave here thinking, how can I be a better teacher? I want anybody to leave here thinking, how can I be more effective at what I do? So, thinking of that in mind and thinking about all of those things, you need to ask yourselves, what will you do differently? Because if you sit here and just listen to Jazz's story, it's not enough. Because lots of people will have seen what Jazz went through, either through movies or either through books they've read or either through conversations with their colleagues or whatever. It wasn't enough. So we've got to think about what are we going to do to move that forward and actually do differently. So, when you find it, pop your hand up. Don't say anything or tell anybody. Just when you find it, pop your hand up. Keep it up nice and high. No speaking. I love that laugh, whoever that is. Now look at the slow coaches that have not put their hand up. Haven't you got it? Well, it's on the board. Can you see it? Why don't you stand up and have a closer look? You can't see it. Can you look? No. You tell it. Just sit down. Now, he likes to be. Some people put their hands up anyway, thinking, hey. The reality is, teachers do things like that, where they think something's frightfully obvious, and they think, well, it's on the board, I've given you the information, I've given you the tools, why can't you get it? And you're so focused on the fact that I'm talking to you about getting it, and you're standing up, you're still not thinking about what it is that you have to get. So, Clary, I think you had your hand up first. What was the answer? The. Can you find the mistake?
Yep.
Now, if like me, miss, you were thinking, do those match the colours of the rainbow? Or if like me, you were thinking, is that how you spell mistake? Is that correct? The point is, we can't see small tweaks we need to make in our own practice. And unless we highlight those small tweaks, I'm not saying mistakes, I'm not saying things you do wrong, small tweaks in our practice, we won't know what to change. So we have to constantly think more than just reflection. Reflection has become such a buzzword. I'm going to reflect on my practice and then spell it with either a C or an S, not knowing which one it is. Okay? Thinking about what I'm going to have to do. But the reality is, unless we can point out ourselves or have pointed out to us what it is that we need to tweak, we won't make those tweaks. So that's step one. Thinking about everything that you hear today and you will hear today, you need to think, what small tweaks will I make as part of my daily practice? What will I do differently that I didn't do before? And only think of one tweak a week. That's it. One small adaptation. So not twerk a week, Jazz. Tweak a week. Okay? So one small tweak a week, and you've got to think about what am I going to do and how am I going to do it. And hopefully I could give you some ideas to make that happen. Because sometimes we need one of these in our classrooms. I mean, I've felt like this many a time. The thing that's annoyed me most about this poster is, why is it across the page? Why hasn't the stamp gone neatly across the lines? And that's really bothered me. But the point is, I thought, you know, I've had crazy ideas in the past. I thought maybe if I buy a stamp and change the letters to what's this for, maybe will that work, or work to finish, but it didn't go down too well. So don't buy stamps. But sometimes it's important for us to just take on board some of the ideas and think, is that for me? Is that going to happen? Because somebody comes up with crazy ideas all the time. It doesn't mean we need to pick them up and put them into our practice day in, day out. So I want you to join Jazz and I on a revolution of love, because that's really, really important. Love and care are so, so important. And let's not think that every time we do something that isn't to the best of our ability in our classroom that we failed that child. We haven't. We have time with those children. We have time day in, day out with those children. And if you make a mistake with that child, apologize, just like you would with your own children, just like you would with your own peers. You know, I've occasionally said to a child, you know what, I shouldn't have spoken to you like that, I'm sorry. Is that okay? And teachers find that difficult to do because, hey, we're the adults and we're the ones that should have respect. And if we talk to them like that, it's okay. It's not. It's just being human. It's not okay. And I've done that before lots and lots of times. You know what, I snapped at you, I'm sorry. Shouted at you, shouldn't have talked to you like that. Is that okay? I'm really sorry. And normally they're like, yeah, it's fine, whatever. And really they're thinking, did he just apologize? Is that really, was he sorry? And it's okay to do that. But the reality is, I would love for you to put in place these 10 emotions, okay, in your lessons. Now, before you take a picture, you need the research reference. So, it's an obscure name with a date, okay? That's the research reference. I don't have a research reference because I made the list up. So, the reality is, if we put these 10 emotions into place, into our lessons, day in, day out, we would have effective lessons because our students would want to be there, they'd want to turn up. As a Senko, so I'm also a Senko, I lead teaching and learning and inclusion in my school. Our tagline for our school, so Jazz mentioned the 3 Bs, our tagline is amazing. It's nurturing hearts and minds. That's how we see school. We're nurturing our hearts and we're nurturing their minds. And we want our students to do well. But we want them to want to be there. So we're a startup school. We started in September, year 7 only. And our measure of success in the first 7 weeks has been, are our students turning up every day? Are they going to class every day? Are they staying in lessons every day? Are they trying every task that we're giving them? And we said yes to absolutely all of them. And the feeder schools transition that we've had, that wasn't the case in lots of their primary schools. So we've given ourselves a big pat on our back, even though it's been challenging, it's been difficult. There have been lots of distressing behaviors to deal with, but we want to put these 10 emotions in place into our lessons. Think about how you start a lesson. That could be the tweak of the week. Think about how you welcome your students in. There's a thing called a mood hoover. Does everyone know what a mood hoover is?
I can imagine.
Yeah. A mood hoover is someone that sucks the life out of a room. Okay? They're the person that everybody knows, and there's probably a couple in here, so they're going to start going, they're going to start going, haha, yeah, I know a mood hoover, yeah, I know a mood hoover. A mood hoover sucks the life out of a room, and they're also the same in a lesson. If a student comes in, suddenly a teacher can become a mood hoover around that student. The opposite of a mood hoover is a Tigger, basically. Okay? Now, Tigger's also a problem because he doesn't have any friends either. So you need to be careful about being overly enthusiastic and, woo, welcome, come into my class. Is this maths? Are we here for maths? Yeah, it's fun. We need to... English teacher, sorry. We need to be finding the right medium to put in place these emotions into our lesson. If you welcome in the lesson, they're going to sit down. If you make them feel comfortable, they're going to start an activity. If you show them your care, they're going to show you they care. And that's primary concepts behind human psychology. What are we doing with our students? And I've done this many, many times. Hurry up, get in, sit down. Hurry up, I've got to get on with this. Come on, sit down, shut up, sit down, get on with it. I've done that lots of times. Those lessons haven't been too great. They haven't been good enough. But the reality is, if we put in place these 10 emotions, we will have a better chance of learning. Now, hopefully, between Jazz and I, we will put in place these 10 emotions in this creative conversation. And hopefully, therefore, the creative conversation will be better for you. Linking back to what Jazz has said, which is really, really important. If you worked with children, pop your hand up if you were asked on interview, why do you want to work with children? Pop your hand up if you were asked that question. Look around, look how many people have got their hand up. About 7 or 8, is it? And we all work with children, right? Yet we weren't asked the core question, why do you actually want to work with children? Now you could give me a cliche response. I'm happy with a cliche response, at least it is a response. But we go so far into the how, and then to the what, we forget about the why. So why do I want to work with children? Then my next question should be, how do I want to work with children? And then my next question should be, what do I do to work with children? How do I do it? What do I do? And then I need to ask myself the why. No, it should be the other way around. Let's ask the why do you do it? How do you do it? Then what do I do? So you need to come to a conclusion, to a realization, what exactly is your why? And if your why is because of people like Jazz, fine, say it, believe it. Actually own that why. If your why is because my mum and dad did it, or if your why is because I had a fantastic teacher, that's okay. But know your why. That's really important. I want to show you my why. I thought it was a pretty good why to begin with. I mean, when you first finish university, when I finished, I did a law degree, and I went into Connections, which is called, I don't know if, is there Connections in Scotland? No. It's like a careers advisory service that, yeah, so I went into Connections and I said, listen, got a law degree, did a qualifying legal practice course, but don't want to be a solicitor. I was just sent to university. My head of sixth form literally wrote my application for me and said, you're going to university to study. And I picked law and computer systems, is that all right? And I was like, no. I don't want to do computer systems. And then he said, that's fine, when you get there you could change it. So I turned up, I enrolled, and I said, oh yeah, they're just small problem. I don't mind doing law, but not computer systems. I said, oh well, that's your course. That's what you've been enrolled onto. And I said, so what do you want me to do? He said, oh, just sit here for a year. You only need to get 40%. So I had to do computer systems for a year. So I remember going into the lecture, and I had to like move these coins using Turbo Pascal programming. And I was like, what? Everybody was just sat on individual booths. And I was just looking around at everybody, just saying, and I was like, mate, this is shit, isn't it? And he was like, what are you talking about? He was loving it. So I was like, wow. I got my first coursework grade back from my law course, and I earned a massive 11%. And I'd never done coursework before. I had 100% exams in all my A-levels, and my lecturer said to me, oh, Amjad, can I just talk to you about your coursework? And I said, well, 11%, there's probably a lot to talk about right now. And he said, oh, well, you know, have you heard of a footnote? And I was like, what? Footnote on a piece of paper, what are you talking about? And he said, what about a bibliography? I said, nope. And the point is, I got all the way to university without even knowing what a bibliography or a footnote is, having got good enough grades to study law and computer systems. Now, I did reasonably well. I did pretty well to get into university. I worked quite hard. But the reality is, like Jazz said, have we been taught the things, or do we just assume that our students know these things? Do we just assume they know how to behave? A line that I use often is, don't teach them how to behave, teach them how to be, and then teach them how to behave. And that's really important. Do they know how to be in your classroom, and then teach them how to behave as well? So do they know actually what it means to be a part of your classroom? And then if they don't, show them. But this is the real reason why I'm in teaching.
I'm a self-motivated individual.
People work independently. And also as part of a team. I consider myself a resourceful person.
He possesses good communication skills.
And I have the ability to work under pressure.
I'm a hard worker. I'm a hard worker.
And a quick thinker.
But above all, I have the desire and the determination to succeed.
So that's my why. I work in challenging schools, I work with students that need to be shown how to do certain things, rather than us assuming they should just know how to do certain things. So if you don't know your why, if you haven't figured out your why, think about it. Write it down. Put it on a post-it note, put it somewhere, put it on your fridge, whatever, put it on your desktop background, but think about your why. And if it's as simple as, because I want to make a difference, that's okay, that's good enough. But know why you're doing it, and then come to the how, and then look at the what, which is hopefully what I'll give you some ideas. Because if you're thinking something like this, if you're thinking something like this, well, hold on. That was a lovely video and everything, but I'm not a social worker, I'm not a community care worker, I can't be doing all of those things. That's fine, I'm not telling you to change the world, but I'm telling you to be aware of what they are. Because this is how I feel in a classroom. This is me in a classroom. Just absolutely, you know. And I've said this many times, and I'll say it again. Russell Crowe's never been Asian, okay? You need to understand this. Look how perfectly that photo matches my skin complexion. Right? But anyway, this word entertainment is really important because we're not here to entertain children. We're not here to plan fun activities. We're here to be engaging, and this is where engaging becomes a confusing word for people because they confuse it with entertaining. I'm not here to entertain children. I'm not here to tell them, let's have lots of fun, but I'm here to make the lesson so engaging. Guess what? It might become fun, and it might become entertaining. That's okay. But my students will leave my lesson with lots more knowledge than they did before they came into the lesson, and they might have a good time doing it as well. That's okay. I won't plan for fun activities. I won't plan for entertainment. I won't even plan for engagement. I'll plan the learning. What am I trying to get out of this lesson? What do I want them to know that they didn't know before? What do I want them to consolidate that they hadn't quite achieved before? And then everything might fit into place. Because we need to ask yourself this question. What's it actually like to be in your classroom? Can you answer the question realistically and confidently, would you like to be taught by yourself? Some people are going, whoa. I don't know. I mean, I change depending on what day of the week it is, to be honest. I don't know if even right now, I mean, I think I'm a good teacher. I think I care about my students, but I've still got lots of things that I need to work on. I don't know if I could even now say confidently that I would want to teach myself. And until we get to that point, we need to keep on learning, because Lord Jim Knight said a fantastic quote online the other day, and he said, as soon as the teacher stops learning, so do the students. So we need to not just assume, just because we've got our degree, our PGC, NQT, NQT+1, and we're sent off for National Middle Leaders courses, or MPQL-MELs, or whatever they're called in Scotland, okay, we need to keep on learning, because if we don't, they'll stop learning as well. So, what can we do? These are my 3 words that I live by, and my website, and my ideas, and my tweets, everything revolve around these 3 words. Try an idea. I didn't plan this very well because I didn't realise that you would be sat here. I might have moved it to the top. Even though I have been here for about 3 hours, I should have. Try an idea, refine an idea. If the idea doesn't work, just ditch that idea. Okay, it's as simple as that. But you cannot just lift an idea that's presented to you online or somewhere by someone and think, I'm going to plop it into my lesson and just expect it to work. Because you have to know your students, not just students. I know my students. You need to know your students. Because students as a collective whole, yeah, absolutely, they're little and they're in front of us, that's fine. That doesn't mean it's the same student that's in front of you. You also need to know your subject. You need to contextualize any idea. You need to personalize any idea. So try an idea, refine the idea. If the idea doesn't work, ditch the idea. Now, I know that you're constrained by some policies, some school-based initiatives. That's okay. But the best thing about these three words are, if you try something that a school has given you, and if you refined it and the school's given you, and if you say, actually, this works more constructively for my students and I, senior leaders should listen to that. They should take on board those comments. But if you just belittle an idea because you think it's crap, they probably won't. Okay? So it's important for you to try, refine, and ditch. And this is one way. You could use my website, trythisteaching.com. It's not a sales pitch because it's completely free. There's no sign up, there's no registration. Everything's in an editable format because PDF is kind of just saying, this is good, but you can't have it, okay? So everything is available for you. So you could go to this section that says Try This Teaching Toolkit, and on the toolkit there are over 300 ideas for you that have been tried and tested in many, many classrooms. I do not share an idea unless, one, I've done it personally, or two, I know and respect the colleague that's actually been using it and actually been trying it and actually been refining it and actually it hasn't been ditched. The best thing about ideas are, don't get angry with the people that are presenting you the ideas. If you don't like the idea, just go, no thanks, I'll move on. And something that I'll be writing about this coming up, is that idea of what we see online and where we see and hear ideas from everyone. They're show reels of success. Don't base your practice, don't base your persona, your teaching on people's show reels. So don't just think, wow, their lessons must be mint all the time. It doesn't mean they are. It just means they're highlighting things that have been really good, and maybe you could pick and choose them. We all have bad days. We all have days where we think, oh, I wish that day didn't happen. We all have days where we think, I didn't do too well. And students also have those days. Don't judge the student by one bad day. You know, oh, he was doing so well and then he kicked off. Yeah, what about the 6.5 weeks where he did do really well? Let's not judge them by one incident. And I'm not saying if he picks a chair up and smashes someone's head open that we should just let him off that, okay? But we need to think about where the successes have been rather than where the failures are. How many of you analyze or look at student successes before you look at where their failures are? So some of the schools that I go in and work with, some of the students that I go in and work with, where we look at a report on a student, okay, failing English, failing in maths, not doing really too good in history, but in 6 subjects they're doing really, really well. Should we look at the 6 rather than speaking to the 3 teachers they're not doing so well in? Think about why they're doing well in those, and then maybe feedback to those teachers. Do you ever just pair up your colleagues and sit them like in speed dating rows and say, right, let's talk about these 10 students and tell me what's going well for you, tell me what's not going so well for you, and share ideas. We all teach students, we all teach those students, and the most annoying line you hear in secondary school, maybe primary schools as well, is, he doesn't do that for me. Or, oh, he was perfect for me. It's like, who cares if he was good for you? I don't care if he was well behaved for you. I don't care if he's done well for you. Tell me why. How did you do that? What is it that works? So those 5 teachers, sharing that knowledge to make them into 10 teachers would have been better for Jazz, would have been better for other people. So share the successes with other teachers. Share what's going well. Don't gloat about it, but share why and what's worked well with those students, with those teachers, with those parents. It's really, really important. Also, ask them questions. For goodness sake, get some feedback from them. We're so scared of asking simple questions to our students. I ask these 4 questions, and I ask teachers to ask these 4 questions wherever I go across the country. 3 questions, get them to finish these sentences. I learn best when. And tell them you cannot write when it's fun. It's not helpful for me. I don't need teachers' names, I don't need anything. I need specifics of activities and things that you do that help me learn best. I do not learn when. You can't write when it's boring. It doesn't tell me anything. Tell me what stops you from learning. The best teachers are, I don't want names, I want characteristics. Tell me what you think makes the best teachers. And then 4, finish this sentence. I wish my teacher knew. Now, I can't be certain, but I feel if Jazz was asked that question, I wish my teacher knew, maybe if she wrote down something that was happening, she then wouldn't assume that her teachers thought it was okay what was going on. I've had the most amazing responses to this. I've asked every single student in 1,500 student schools these 4 questions, collated the responses and figured things out for them. Thought about what's happening. I asked them these questions to find out from them what do they think, and then I have conversations with them when they say the best teachers are, and these are the 3 words more or less that they use all the time: firm, fair, funny. These are the 3 words they use all the time. Funny. We're not here to be fun, but they want us to be funny. The problem is what we think is funny is not what they think is funny. So I don't know how to be funny for you, because my version of funny is definitely not your version of funny. And also, when I plan fun activities, I remember I planned Who Wants to Be a Millionaire with the sound effects, all that kind of stuff, and they were like, so we don't watch Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And I was like, well, you are today, because that took me 3 hours to make. So the reality is, let's just ask them the things that they like doing or not like doing. But also, number 1 and 2 opens up powerful conversation. You say you learn best when you get to sit next to your friend, and you say you learn best when you get to talk about the work. There's no work in your damn book doing those things. So that doesn't actually work well. I think you got number 1 and 2 the wrong way around, okay? So it's okay to have those conversations. I do not learn when I have to be set challenging work. I get that a lot. And my response to that is, what do you want school to be? You come in and answer everything I ask you, and you can do every single activity I've given you, then you go home. What am I doing for you then? Okay, so we need to rebrand the word challenging, difficult, hard, all of those things. Because I say to parents and students, you will be challenged in this class, it will be difficult, you will make mistakes. But we need to start modeling that a little bit more, because if I asked you all a random question, not many of you will stick your hands up and say, it's okay to make a mistake in front of my peers and get it wrong, because then I won't look stupid at all in front of everybody else. Not many of you will do that. Or if I say, if there's anything you don't understand in the PowerPoint, just pop your hand up. Not many of you will say, sorry, I don't know what that word means. Because you'll think, will I look stupid in front of everybody else? Children are the same. So don't expect things you wouldn't expect from yourself. I know we're adults and they're children, but you really need to consider that. This question is so, so powerful. I wish my teacher knew. The best response I've had to date has been, I wish my teacher knew they shouldn't let me sit where I want. I was like, Bria, what do you mean? She said, sir, in your lesson, when I say I want to sit next to my mate, you say no. I say, all right, what about everybody else? She said, well, I just kick off and they let me sit where I want. I said, well, why don't you just not kick off? She said, because I actually like my friend, I get along with her, but I don't want her to know I don't want to sit next to her in class, and I can't work hard when I'm sat next to her. So I need you to be that person that told me not to sit next to her because I quite like her, okay? And I was like, you don't sit next to her. She said, everybody else needs to not let me sit next to her. And I was like, all right, I'll tell people to have that argument with you. She went, yeah, and it's going to be like, you know, I've got to argue. And I was like, so basically you want me to tell every teacher to have a fake argument with you about not sitting next to your friend? So yeah. Okay? Make it happen. You know, other questions that have been responded by, I wish my teacher knew I have a disabled little brother. That wasn't on my system because that's a step little brother. I didn't know she's a young carer because I didn't know she had a disabled little brother. So we need to be aware of things that are happening across our schools, across our communities. And we won't really know unless we ask. Don't pry, think about the safeguarding rules and regulations, don't ask for things, but be aware that they might want to share things that will help us help them. Okay, so that's a small tweak that you could use. Maybe at the start of term, is it start of term now? Or is it term back? Have you just, yeah, as in when we go back on Monday. And maybe you could start your lessons with something like that. 4 questions, ask your students these 4 questions. Also, think about our language. I'm so hot on the fact that our language that we use with students is often very, very wrong. It's very, very wrong in my humble opinion. I might be very, very wrong about it, but I don't like the terms try your best. As long as you try your best, it's okay. As long as you try your best, it's okay. What does that even mean, try your best? Your best to you is different to you, is different to you. And the best way I can example this is a year 11 student, a weekend before his English language exam, come up to me and he said, sir, I did so much revision this weekend. I worked so hard. I said, oh, really? What did you do? He goes, 3 hours. So, I said, what, across the whole weekend? He said, 3 hours. And I said, wow, that's shit. And And he said, but guess how much I revised for the other subjects? 0. Oh, that's still not good. That's still not okay. But he said, and then he got really angry with me, and we had quite a good conversation about the fact that he said, I tried my best for you, I worked really hard, and I didn't try my best for the other subjects, and you were annoyed at me about that. What I should have said was, I need you to work hard, and this is what hard work looks like. Quantify hard work, because our students don't understand what hard work is. So don't think it's because they're stupid, it's just because they don't know. So we need to quantify what hard work is. I don't talk to students in terms of days before the exam. I talk to them in terms of hours before the exam. So I teach GCSE, A-level. So I would say if there's 10 days before your exam, that's 30 hours of revision before your exam. I make it very clear how much I expect and what that expectation will result in potentially. If you just say, you know, try your best, go on, go away, come up with a revision timetable, I'll even print one out for you from Publisher with little gaps, and you fill it in and get on with it, it's not going to work. We need to be explicit, we need to be clear. So think about our language. Also, we need to be evidence-informed, not evidence completely led, okay? Evidence-informed means we need to be aware of research, we need to be aware of what has made an impact across other sectors, across other communities, across other school children, and then can we replicate that success with our students in mind? And this is the Education Endowment Foundation Toolkit page. If you just Google EEF Toolkit, you'll find evidence that is measured on terms of months of impact, evidence strength, and cost. We need to think, what has worked well across the years, and what can we do about it? Now, the reason why I say evidence-informed is because sometimes we need to be innovative. Sometimes we need to think of things that somebody hasn't completed a study on. And sometimes it's okay to say, we're going to try this out, and I don't think it's backed by data yet, but it could work. And I have a good feeling because guess what? I know my students, I know my community, and I know the subject that I'm teaching. That's okay. So be evidence-informed because there's lots of things out there that will tell you things that work. Like the most measurable change that I've made in my practice is understanding how the brain works in terms of memory. That's been something that I've really swatted up on in the idea of, actually, do I understand memory? Do I understand forgetting? Do I understand cognitive load theory? Do I understand confirmation bias? Do I understand those things? And I've learned a lot about those things. That's useful reading. And the best thing about online Twitter is somebody will write a blog that summarizes it all for you without having to read the big book. Okay? That's the best thing about Twitter. I just thought, oh wow, thanks. Okay? So think about your practice, and that could be a small tweak of the week. Think about, am I going to ask my students questions? Am I going to look at evidence that already demonstrates measurable impact? Am I going to put those things and place them to my lesson? And think about language, because language, again, is so, so important. How do you communicate with your students? What do you say to your students? Now, Jazz mentioned expectations on one of her list of ACE priorities. All students can achieve. We just need to be clear that achievement shouldn't be measured on the benchmarks of society. Achievement should be measured on what our student has come from to where we want them to go. I'm a Senko. If students leave with a 4 or a G, I'm happy if they came in at P scales, if they came in below national curriculum levels. So we need to be clear what achievement means. Please, please, please stop referring to students as low ability or bottom set. Just how about we just call them by their names? Or if you can't quite grasp that much, just call them by their class. Just 9-1 or something, okay? Or just get rid of those 1s and 2s, A, Bs and Cs and just call them by their names, okay? If we don't, we already embank our students into low expectations because they're bottom set, they're low ability. What can we expect? This is the best. I've had conversations with teachers. I had a fantastic lesson with my year 9 bottom set class. They did really well. I said, oh, what did they do? They sat down. I said, yeah, then what? No, they just sat down. I was like, well, was that the whole lesson? Yeah, I managed to get them to sit down. Okay, the expectation was that's a good thing for that class. That's not good enough. We need to be clear. Also, these kind of things, almost, some, must, should, could. I know if I was in the class or David was in the class, I would probably pick the should activity or the could activity or the must activity or maybe any of the activities. Basically what I'm saying is I wouldn't give a shit about which activity I was picking, because the reality is if you're not telling me what can stretch me, I don't know what can stretch me. And also, if you're saying to me I can pick an activity, the reality is I'll either pick the one that's really easy and smash it, or pick the one that's really hard and think it doesn't matter if I get it wrong. So we need to think about those choice-based activities. I'm not saying get rid of them, but also leveled objectives. My feeling towards leveled objectives are a bit like this. All of you are going to hear what I'm saying, because I'm speaking English. You might not understand my accent very well, but all of you will understand what I'm saying. Most of you will face the front and listen to what I'm saying. Some of you will actually listen to what I'm saying. Where are we going with that? How about we just say, everybody the objective, everybody teach to the top, scale down. Let's not put scaffolds in straight away. Let's get everybody aiming for this task, and if we need to help, we put that help in after some struggle, not straight away. Because exams still don't have those scaffolds, exams still don't have those help procedures. So we can't prepare them for 5 years of support, and then they sit there 4 English language, 2 English language, 2 English literature exams, and they don't have any of that stuff. So we need to think, what can we do to stop that learned helplessness? Also, language, so important. Who's married here? Hands up. If you're married and your husband or wife does enough housework, let's go for husbands. If you're married and you have a husband, do they do enough housework? Put your hand up. You put that up very proudly, miss. You're like, yes. Now, if I ask the same question to your husband, their answer would be based on how much housework their fathers did. Your answer is based on how much housework they do. So if you ask my wife, does Amjad do enough housework? She'll say no. If you ask me, Amjad, do you do enough housework? I'll say yes, because my dad did nothing. So I do something, which therefore means I'm doing more than nothing, therefore I'm okay, I'm doing well. Now this is based on the theory called anchoring effect, which is we base our information on the first bit of information we receive. My first bit of information around housework is what my dad done. Your first bit of information around housework is what you see. Let's think about this in a classroom environment. Here's a quick, easy, simple task. Here are my first 3 bits of information. Quick, easy, simple task. Okay, 5 minutes on that. Everybody, let's crack on with that. Now, here's a more difficult, hard, challenging task. Hard, difficult, challenging task. Let's get on with it. There's 4 kids in your class that couldn't do the quick, easy, simple task. Their anchor is, but I couldn't do the quick, easy, simple task. How are you moving on to the hard, difficult, challenging task? Best way to avoid all that is, here's task 1, here's task 2. Let's get on with them. We anchor our students into certain expectations based on the first information we provide them. How many of you have done this? I've done this. I'm not having a go at any of you lot. I'm telling you about myself. I know this is boring. I know we don't need to do it. I know it's hard. I don't know why it's on the syllabus, but we've got to teach it. And I know I should have taught you it months ago, but it's all right. Somebody's told me I've got to do it, so we've got to do it, all right? So let's just get on with it, all right? Okay? We're going to learn it, all right? And they're thinking, that sounds fun. Let's do it. Sounds like I want to get on with this. Or some of you say, I know this is hard. I know it's hard. I mean, I find it hard too. It's hard, but we've got to learn it. And the kids are thinking, you find it hard. You're the teacher. What chance have I got to get on with it? So the anchoring effect is powerful. It's real. It's so important. And this has been something that I've looked into more over the last 2 years. You know, if you say quick, easy, simple, hard, challenging, difficult, all of those things, those are the anchors to our perceptions around those tasks. If you give a task as a challenge, that's okay. If you give a task as a competition, that's okay to a certain extent. If you give a task as, everybody could do this, let's all have a go. Let's go. That's better than, I know this is a bit difficult, but let's try. All right? I want everybody to have a go at things, and I don't want them to be anchored down by our unconscious anchors. So just reflect on that. Think about that. You know the best way you could do that is have your phone face down with the camera covered, whatever, and just hit record on your phone and listen to yourself. Listen to how you introduce tasks. Listen to how you welcome people. You'll hear lots of ers and buts and likes and all those kind of things, but also what you'll hear mostly is how you introduce things, how you summarize things, how you simplify things. The most effective teachers can make the most difficult concept into the most simplistic of forms. That's how you understand if you understand things. So think about how you introduce information and how you introduce tasks. Also do a bit of reading. Don't read every single educational book out there. There's so many books out there. These are 3 that I would recommend as a first starting point. Graham Knuckles, Hidden Lives of Learners, Make It Stick, The Science of Successful Learning, and Making Every Lesson Count by Sean Allison and Andy Tharvey. Fantastic educational books. Read around. Don't... People kind of, on Twitter, especially at the moment, they're kind of having a book tick-off competition where there's like, I've read this one, I've read this one, I've read this one. I'm like, you read that in like 8 minutes. How much did you actually take in from that book? So just think about what you can do when you're reading these books. Think about the blogs that you're reading and think about what can I actually do as a result of them. And also, like Jazz said, authenticity. Authenticity. Jazz asked me if I was a millennial. And I said, look, I was born in 84. What are you talking about? She just thought it was because if you're younger than her, you must be that. But the reality is, I say, you don't need to be Facebook friends with them, but you need to be friendly. Okay? You don't need to tell them every part of your life, but you need to let them into a little bit. Because students do this fantastic thing, which is, if you don't let them into a bit of your life and reveal a bit of your life, they make it up. Okay? And their version is much worse than yours. If you do this, which I know you've all done, you're in Tesco, oh no, there's a kid. You need to think, oh no, they think I eat. Why would they think I eat? Why would this teacher need to, oh, you're shopping for shoes, oh, there's a kid there, they're going to know I'm buying shoes. What's the problem with that? And the kids actually feel worse, like it's better talking to them. It's, I love their reaction. I was like, Dad, oh, hi, hello, teach your son. And then they're just waiting for like the negative comment. Yeah, good lad, all right, nice to see you, walk off. That's so much more powerful than writing those written reports that take so long. Okay, so if you get a chance to bump into a parent, say hello. Okay, don't give up your whole weekend, but say hello. Show them who you are. So I let my students know I play a bit of cricket. When students saw me in a hat outside of a suit for the first time, they're like, are you okay, sir? I was like, I don't wear a suit to bed. I do, you know. And also when they find out, okay, you're married, like my kids, my students know that I have a child on the way, hopefully in December, so my first baby, and the kids know that. Letting them know, share those happy moments with your children. It's okay. Like I said, don't let them into every part of your life, but don't shelter every part of your life. They need to see you're genuine. They need to see you're human. And it's okay. You know, the most emotionally building things for me is when I've walked into a class and I'm really not being well, and I've said, guys, I've got a banging headache, I'm really not well, and they just sit and work in silence a whole lesson. That shows that they care about me more than anything else that they could do. Sir's not well, just keep it down, keep it down. And that's powerful. You know, show your students. A teacher said to me when I first started teaching about 11 years ago, it was lots of snow in the playground, and we obviously didn't shut the school because we're like solid, and we wanted to keep the school going. And the head teacher said to me, Amjad, you know if you're respected, if you could walk through that tennis court and not a single snowball would hit you. And I went, but what if I throw it first? I can't walk through all that snow and not hit a kid that I want to hit. And he just went, no, don't chuck any snowballs at anyone, walk through and see if any hit you. I said, well, don't walk next to me then, because they're going to be aiming for you, not me. Like, move, let me walk through. And I walked through and I was like, I ran back and I was like, not yet, soon. So the reality is, you know, be yourself, show little bits about yourself, otherwise they will make it up, okay? So let me end with a quick poem. Being an English teacher. So today, worst day ever by Channy Gorkin. Today was absolute worst day ever. And don't try to convince me that there's something good in every day. Because when you take a closer look, this world is a pretty evil place. Even if some goodness does shine through once in a while, satisfaction and happiness don't last. And it's not true that it's all in the mind and heart, because true happiness can be attained only if one's surroundings are good. It's not true that good exists. I'm sure you could agree that the reality creates my attitude, it's all beyond my control, and you'll never in a million years hear me say today was a very good day. Now, I'll read that poem bottom upwards. Today was a very good day, and you'll never in a million years hear me say it's all beyond my control. My attitude creates the reality. I'm sure you could agree that it's not true that good exists only if one's surroundings are good. True happiness can be attained because it's all in the mind and heart. And it's not true that satisfaction and happiness don't last. Some goodness does shine through once in a while, even if the world is a pretty evil place. Because when you take a closer look, there's something good in every day, and don't try to convince me that today was the absolute worst day ever. The point about this poem is our students have everything they need within them. We just have to read them the right way. And that's really important. And a line that I absolutely love is that we all shine bright. It just depends on how close we look. So Jazz was shining bright all along. It wasn't until she got that family, until she had her children, until she stood up here. She was shining bright all along. And those 5 teachers got close enough to look at that light. So you need to think, who are the students that I need to get a little bit closer to reveal the light for? Because every single one of our students has that light. And we need to think, what can we do to make that light more bright? Because a candle doesn't burn out by passing on its light to somebody else. Okay, so we need to think, but also thinking about candles, don't think of yourself as a candle where you burn out and give your life to everybody else. Don't die being a teacher, okay? Be a teacher and give more to students, but don't give less to yourself. A job is a job, a profession is a profession, but you need to be healthy, fit and sound in order to be healthy, fit and sound for them. Like Jazz said, boy, I don't know, men, I don't know about the advice about putting some lipstick on every now and then, but if you want to, that's okay. Think about yourself, think about how you do. There's this whole debate about, you know, how should a teacher dress. I like the kind of phrase, dress how you want to be addressed. So I like this idea of looking smart, looking proper and getting students to be like that and wanting them to be like that. But the idea is we need to think about what this means. So, final slide.
I feel.
Do you feel alive?
I feel happy of myself.
I feel happy of myself too. What do you got? Any words of wisdom? What about for all the other kids trying to learn how to ride their bike? Can you
So the most inspirational video ever that you're about to see, a teachers have a habit of interrupting things in the middle of something that's really and a video clip pops up and they say, okay guys, we're going to watch a video clip and then you're going to ask them some questions. Okay, ready? And then we watch like 3 seconds. Right, okay, does everyone know what they're doing? All right, and then we're going to answer some questions.
say anything to them?
All right, so what we're going to do is answer some questions and then somebody walks in the room, you start playing the video clip again. Oh, somebody's walked in, so what we're doing is we're answering these questions to make sure, alright, so we're going to watch this video clip, just a short video clip, and we're going to watch these questions and answer these questions. You know what the question is? I haven't actually told you the question, but I want you to answer the question. We need to just stop and let students work sometimes. We have this terrible habit, I do as well, where I feel I have to talk. They're getting on with work, they've got their pen in their hand, their heads are down, they're writing. Everybody understand what they have to do? Is everyone okay? If anybody needs a hand, there's 2 adults in the room, ask me, there's a teaching assistant as well, no problem. You know I'll help you, yeah, I'm here to help. Just shut up then, and then I'll get on. Okay? That helps. Alright, so, inspirational video.
Everybody, I know you can believe in yourself. If you believe in yourself, you will know how to ride a bike.
Replace the bike bit with know how to teach. Okay? So know, everybody believe in yourself, because if you believe in yourself, you know how to teach.
If you don't, you just keep practicing. You won't get the hang of it, I know it. If you keep practicing, you will get the hang of it. And then you can get better and better as you do it.
Give me some thumbs up.
Thumbs up, everybody!
All right.
For rock and roll!
My final message to you all is just keep practicing, okay? However you think you are in the classroom, whatever you think you do, just keep practicing and you'll get better. You will be more effective by practicing. Use the tools that are out there. The biggest advice that I would give people right now is not do what I did when I first started teaching and thinking I need to do everything from scratch. There's so many things out there that people are doing, but don't just lift things from TES and put them into your lesson. Lift them, contextualize them, personalize them, reference them, think about the learning, and then think about what you could do. Thank you.
Right, I need somebody to explain to me why I keep doing this. Right? Because, you know, I brought him because I thought he was good. And he was better than that, wasn't he? Yeah. And that was absolutely stunning, wasn't it? And you've come on. Absolutely no doubt. Just stunning. Yeah, Hal Roberts, her. Oh, not happy about her either, but I will never work again. I'll have to
We offer insects, by the way.
they'll come to your school and everything, and they're probably cheap. I mean, it's shocking. I have no idea what kind of masochist I must be. But do you know what? Aside from anything else, that was the most remarkable thing that I've seen for a long, long time, Amjad. Because I wouldn't have liked to follow you, Jazz. I wouldn't have liked to follow you. And it took you a good 4 seconds to get the room. Yeah. And if you'd done nothing else other than show how it's possible to pick up from that kind of intensity and turn it round, you would have done enough. So a wonderful, wonderful demonstration of how do you engage learners, how do you get people in. And the other thing which I just want to say before I give other people the opportunity to come in was the only thing that I would have changed, Amjad, absolutely the only thing I would have changed. And what I thought was, that was, yeah, you're a bit brown.
Not completely black.
But apart from that, the only thing I would change was that a few times when you used the word teach, you could have used the word be. Because there were some remarkable things that I think you spoke about in terms of how people thought about the practice, how they engaged with it, that would have applied just as well to somebody working in a project, somebody working as a social worker. That whole thing about, you know, and the themes I think that have come through: recognition, identity, find a way to the child, treat people as they might be, not as they seem to be. And one of the wonderful things which I think you did, and this is now starting to sound like a vote of thanks rather than a line, but one of the other things that you did, which I particularly appreciated, was you talked about forgiving yourself. And we were talking about that earlier on this week in another conversation, that one of the problems that we have is we do things wrong and we then allow our mistakes to define us. That we adopt positions and then we allow that position that we've adopted because circumstances were difficult or challenging or people were distressed, and we allow that to define us. And I think your whole thing about, like, just keep coming back. And again, it was that idea of a tweak a week, you know, that manageable piece. Sorry.
I think Jazz and I both, we've done quite a few events together, and Jazz is following me. And we often sit there and go, why are we here? Yeah. We honestly, genuinely, whatever you might think, whatever, we sat there before everyone comes along, and we were like, what we do? Why do people want to come into a room and listen to us speak? Like, we have no idea. So we have that absolute imposter feeling just like anybody else. We also have those days where we think we are utter garbage, just like anybody else. Sometimes I think I'm overly good, like sometimes, okay, we do think like that. But the reality is we buoy each other up and we say, no, you're sharing something important, and she says the same to me. And that's important for yourself. Don't think it's just these people that are standing at the front or sharing things online or doing things. So many wondrous things are happening in the classroom day in, day out. You don't need to showcase it to know it's happening. That student that is quiet when you're ill, that student that says thanks at the end of the lesson, that parent that sends you that little thank you card, that nod of appreciation is all you need. But the reality is, don't base your lives on other people's lives. Take the best bits. I don't like this idea of role models. I'd rather live like the best parts of every person that I meet. And I'd rather take on board things that they've done well and think, how can I do those things as well? What can I do to be like that person, but not become that person? There's so many bits, like you said, you know, we collect people that do these things. Actually what we do is we collect elements of their personality and we think, how can we replicate those bits? But it's really important to remember that. And that's why the how and the why and the why and the how is really important, because you can't go away thinking, can I be like those 5 teachers that Jazz said? Can I be like that person that is, like somebody said to me at the end of an inset, he said, oh, it's okay for you, you're funny. So what's okay about that then? I don't understand. Like what he's like, yeah, you could. I said, I don't have lessons like this. I don't just sit there and then pause and then make a joke about things. I'm teaching stuff as well. But it's important for sometimes it's confused. Sometimes people just think we stand and we just emotionally hook everybody in and then say, now write an essay. Go ahead. It's important for us to realize that, you know, we have to refine and define and continually try out things for our practice as well, because we're still learning, aren't we?
And that's why it's so good to hear that message for learning your trade. You know, and there's that absolute core thing that you talk about all the time, about learning your trade, do the simple things well, and then have your 10 principles. And that idea, that concept of translating these 10 principles that were on that slide into questions, and adding the question how afterwards. So, you know, is the amusement element there, but how is it there? And then the other question which you keep coming back to is, and what does it do? And it's that idea of starting to build these tools that help people to see the practice and see it better. And I won't even use the word reflection, because you've ruined that for me now for the rest of my life. Anybody else want to ask any questions or say anything? Or would you rather just get them through next door? Over and go, well, we'll bring the wine in here actually. We're bringing in wine. Yeah, the question. You had a question last time. No,
I do
go.
have a question.
Go.
I want to say thank you. I think this has been absolutely amazing. You really opened my eyes to so much, and I'm really grateful
Appreciate it.
for
Thank you.
Thank you so much.